Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive deep into receptor pharmacology? Over the next 90 days, we're going to be exploring how drugs interact with these tiny gatekeepers on our cells.
Yeah, it's like understanding the language of your body, but at a microscopic level.
Exactly. It's pretty fascinating.
It is. It's amazing how these small interactions can control so much of what's happening inside us.
It really is.
Receptor pharmacology is all about deciphering this language, understanding how different drugs act like keys.
Keys?
Yeah, keys to unlock these very specific cellular responses.
Huh. Like a secret code.
Yeah, like a secret code that governs everything, from our senses to our heartbeats.
Okay, so to crack this code, where do we even begin?
Well, we've got to start with the major players, the receptor families.
Okay.
There are four main families.
Okay, lay 'em on me.
Protein-coupled receptors, those are GPCRs, receptor tyrosine kinases, RTKs, ion channel receptors, and nuclear receptors.
Okay, so each family has its own structure and function.
Right, and that's what makes them so crucial for drug development.
Gotcha. That gives us our cast of characters.
It does.
But there's what, over 800 GPCRs in the human body?
Yeah.
Where do we even begin?
Well, I think that's the exciting part, Just imagine the possibilities when you have hundreds of potential targets to modulate cellular activity.
That's a lot of targets.
It is. It's like having this giant toolbox for treating diseases.
Okay, so GPCRs are the most abundant.
Mm-hmm.
What makes them so important?
Just think of them as like the busiest communication hubs in our cells.
Okay.
They're involved in so many processes, from vision and smell to regulating heart rate and blood pressure.
Wow.
Even our response to hormones and neurotransmitters really relies heavily on these GPCRs.
Okay, that's a pretty diverse portfolio.
It is.
What about the other families?
Yeah.
What makes them unique?
Well, RTKs, those are essential for cell growth and division,
Uh-huh.
which makes them crucial for understanding cancer development.
Right. Okay.
So when these receptors malfunction, it can actually lead to uncontrolled cell growth.
So they're like the construction crew of the cell,
Yes.
making sure everything's built and maintained properly.
Exactly.
But sometimes those blueprints go haywire.
Precisely, and that's where targeted therapies come in. By understanding how these receptors work, we can develop drugs to either stimulate or inhibit their activity.
So it's like having this precise tool
Yeah.
to fine-tune the cell's construction process.
Exactly.
Okay, what about ion channel receptors?
Yeah.
Those are involved in those rapid-fire signals in our nerves and muscles, right?
Absolutely. They're responsible for, the lightning-fast communication that allows us to think, move, and just react to our environment.
Wow. So each family plays such a unique role in this, intricate cellular orchestra.
I do.
Okay, last one, nuclear receptors.
Yeah.
They seem a little different from the others.
They are. Unlike the other receptors that kind of reside on the cell's surface,
Yeah.
these receptors are located inside, in the nucleus, acting as gatekeepers to our DNA.
So they're controlling which genes are turned on and off?
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful position to be in.
It is.
They're essential for regulating cell growth, development, and metabolism, so hormones like estrogen and testosterone.
Yeah.
They exert their effects by binding to these nuclear receptors, so influencing everything from reproduction to bone density.
Okay, so we've met the key players now.
We have.
Let's delve into some core concepts that really define these receptor families.
Sure. The fundamental principle is ligand binding.
Okay.
And think of it as like a lock and key mechanism. So the receptor is the lock and the ligand is the key that fits into it, triggering a very specific response.
So the ligand could be a hormone, a drug, even a neurotransmitter,
Exactly.
each one carrying a specific message to the cell.
That's right. And depending on the message, the ligand can either activate the receptor, which would be acting as an agonist, or it can block its activation, acting as an antagonist.
So agonists turn the key and open the door,
Yep.
while antagonists block the keyhole,
They do.
preventing anything from getting in.
Exactly. It's like having a switch to control the flow of cellular messages.
I like that analogy. Okay, and then there's receptor subtypes.
Right. Even within the same family, receptors can actually have these subtle differences in their structure,
Okay.
which leads to variations in their response to light.
So it's not just about finding the right key for the lock.
Right.
It's about finding the key that fits a specific subtype of the lock.
Precisely, and this is why understanding these receptor subtypes is so important in drug development,
Okay.
because it allows us to create drugs that are highly specific, targeting only the receptors involved in a particular disease process.
And that minimizes side effects.
Exactly.
That's incredible. It's like being able to target a single instrument in an orchestra
Yeah.
without affecting the others.
It is. It is.
Okay, but how does all of this translate to real-life situations? When and where do these receptors actually come into play?
Well, let's take the example of your fight or flight response.
Okay.
So when you encounter, like, a stressful situation, your body releases adrenaline, which acts as a ligand,
Okay.
binding to specific GPCRs called beta-adrenergic receptors in your heart.
So adrenaline is the key.
Mhm.
Beta-adrenergic receptors are the lock.
Yep.
And the message is prepare for action.
Exactly. This binding triggers a cascade of events, increasing your heart rate, the force of contraction, preparing you to either fight or flee.
Wow, that's a powerful example of how receptor activation can have like these immediate physiological effects.
It is.
Okay, what about something a bit more subtle,
Yeah.
like regulating blood sugar?
Well, think about insulin. So when you eat, your blood sugar rises.
Right.
Your pancreas releases insulin,
Mm-hmm.
which then binds to its receptor, an RTK, on the surface of cells.
And that binding signals the cell to take up glucose from the blood.
Precisely. The insulin receptor acts like this gatekeeper, allowing glucose to enter the cell, lowering blood sugar levels, providing energy.
So in this case, insulin is the key that unlocks the cell's glucose gate.
It-
Got you. What about ion channel receptors? Where do they fit into all of this?
Well, think about how your muscles contract.
Okay.
So at the neuromuscular junction, where the nerves meet the muscles,
Uh-huh.
neurotransmitters like acetylcholine, they act as ligands,
Okay.
binding to ion channel receptors on muscle cells.
So it's like an electrical signal being transmitted from the nerve to the muscle,
Yes.
causing it to contract.
Exactly. This rapid communication is essential for coordinated movement and reflexes.
Wow.
Without these ion channels, we wouldn't be able to move a muscle.
It's also interconnected.
It is.
Each receptor family kind of playing its part in this like intricate cellular dance.
It is. It is. And this is really just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore. But this foundation,
Yeah.
this will be crucial for understanding how drugs actually interact with these receptors to treat all sorts of diseases.
So receptor pharmacology really is the backbone of modern medicine.
It is.
But with so much information to cover over the next 90 days, where do we even go from here?
Well, the key is to approach it systematically.
Okay.
So first, you just want to focus on solidifying your understanding of these major receptor families and their core concepts.
Ligands, agonists, antagonists, and subtypes.
Yeah, really solidify this foundation we've kind of laid today.
Okay, what's the next step in our journey?
Once you feel comfortable with the basics, then you can delve deeper into specific receptors and their signaling pathways, explore how they work, what activates them, what blocks them, and what cellular processes they influence.
So it's like taking a closer look at each instrument in the orchestra,
Exactly.
understanding its unique sound and its role in the entire symphony.
I like that. I like that.
This is going to be an exciting journey.
It is.
But for now, let's let all this information sink in.
Yeah.
I'm already fascinated by just the complexity and the elegance of this cellular communication system.
Me too. Me too.
All right, we'll be back soon to continue exploring the world of receptor pharmacology.
Looking forward to it.
See you next time.
Bye.
All right, so we've laid a pretty solid foundation, I think.
We have.
We've met the major receptor families,
Yeah.
got a grasp on, their roles in this cellular communication system.
We do.
But how does understanding, like, this language of receptors translate into, actual medical breakthroughs?
Oh, that's where it gets really exciting.
Okay.
Just knowing these specific lock and key interactions
Uh-huh.
allows us to develop drugs that can either mimic the body's natural signals
Okay.
or block the unwanted ones
Gotcha.
with incredible precision.
So we're essentially tapping into the body's own communication network,
Yeah.
modulating those conversations to kind of restore balance.
Precisely. And the implications for treating diseases are enormous.
Okay, give me an example.
Scientists are constantly searching for ways to target GPCRs that are involved in pain perception. So imagine developing painkillers that work without the addictive potential of opioids.
Wow, that would be revolutionary. But I imagine it's not that simple.
It's not.
Are there challenges in developing drugs that target those specific receptor subtypes?
Absolutely. One of the biggest hurdles is the sheer complexity of these receptors.
Yeah, we talked about all the subtypes.
Exactly. Even within the same family,
Right.
there can be these subtle differences that make targeting one subtype without affecting others incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it's like trying to hit a moving target
It is.
with a very, very tiny dart.
It is. It is. But are there any success stories? I mean, have scientists overcome these challenges?
I hope so.
They have. Take beta blockers, for example. They're widely used to treat heart conditions
Right.
by blocking specific beta-adrenergic receptors in the heart.
Okay.
So this prevents adrenaline from overstimulating the heart, lowering blood pressure and reducing strain.
This is like putting a filter on the fight or flight response.
Yeah, allowing the heart to stay calm and collected.
I like that. What about another example?
Well, another great example is antihistamines. They work by blocking histamine receptors, which are involved in allergic reactions.
Right.
So by preventing histamine from binding, they can reduce those annoying symptoms like the sneezing, the itching.
Yeah, okay, those are both excellent examples
IR?
of how understanding receptor pharmacology has actually led to effective treatments. But are there any areas where we're still searching for answers?
Oh, there are many.
Okay.
Alzheimer's disease is a particularly challenging area.
Okay.
Scientists are still trying to fully understand the role of specific receptors in the brain
Yeah.
and how their dysfunction actually contributes to the disease.
So it's like trying to solve this like complex puzzle
It is.
where we're still missing some of the pieces.
We are, but I imagine that every breakthrough in receptor research,
Yeah.
brings us closer to finding those missing pieces.
Makes sense.
And that's why this field is so dynamic and exciting. With every new discovery, we gain a deeper understanding of how our bodies work at the molecular level, opening up new avenues for treating these diseases.
It's like we're constantly expanding our vocabulary
Yeah.
in this cellular language,
I like that.
allowing us to have more neurons conversations with the body.
That's a great way to put it. And as our knowledge of receptor pharmacology continues to evolve, so too will our ability to develop these more effective and targeted therapies
Okay.
for a wider range of conditions.
So for those, just starting to delve into this field, what's the best way to approach this 90-day deep dive?
Yeah.
Because it can feel kind of overwhelming with so much information to absorb.
Don't worry, it's a journey, not a race.
Okay.
Start by just building that solid understanding of the major receptor families and those core concepts.
Okay, so that's our foundation.
It is.
What?
Then you dive deeper into the specific receptors that, pique your interest. Maybe you're fascinated by the brain, intrigued by the immune system. You choose a path
Okay.
and explore those receptors and their signaling pathways in detail.
So it's like choosing a specific chapter in this vast up book of receptor pharmacology.
It is.
What about resources? Where can our listeners go for more in-depth information?
Textbooks are always a good place to start.
Okay.
Look for those that specialize in receptor pharmacology or specific therapeutic areas.
Gotcha.
There are also scientific journals, online databases, even reputable websites that are dedicated to this field.
So there's a wealth of knowledge out there.
There is.
Just waiting to be unlocked.
Yeah.
And as we progress through this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll uncover even more fascinating stories
We will.
about the impact of receptor pharmacology on our lives.
Absolutely. From groundbreaking discoveries to the development of life-changing therapies, the world of receptor pharmacology is full of wonder and possibility.
It really is.
Yeah.
So we've explored this world of receptors, their families and their roles, even touched on how scientists are using this knowledge to develop some pretty groundbreaking treatments.
Yeah, it's really exciting stuff.
But I'm curious, how do researchers go from understanding a receptor to actually designing a drug that can interact with it?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
It's where biology, chemistry, and technology really all collide.
Okay.
It's a multi-step process.
Okay.
Often starting with identifying a therapeutic need.
So finding a better way to manage chronic pain.
Yeah.
Or developing new treatments for a specific type of cancer.
Exactly. So it starts with a problem that needs solving.
Okay.
A message that needs to be kind of fine-tuned within the body.
Gotcha. So then what?
Well, researchers then delve deep into those underlying mechanisms of the disease.
Okay.
They investigate what's going wrong at the cellular level, focusing on which receptors might be overactive or underactive, or even sending, the wrong signals.
So it's like detective work, figuring out which receptor is playing the villain.
Exactly. And once they've identified that culprit, they can start exploring ways to intervene. And this is where a deep understanding of receptor pharmacology becomes really crucial.
So how do they actually design a drug that can target that specific receptor or pathway?
Right. It seems like trying to create a key for a lock you can't even see.
It does.
Well, there are a couple different approaches.
Okay.
One method is to screen like vast libraries of chemical compounds
Okay.
to see if any of them bind to the target receptor.
Okay.
This is known as high-throughput screening.
High throughput screening.
Yeah, and it involves testing, you know, thousands, even millions of compounds.
Wow, so it's like a massive trial and error process, testing countless keys to see which one fits the lock.
That's a good analogy.
Okay.
But with modern technology, this process has become much more efficient.
Okay, good.
Another approach is to actually design molecules from scratch
Okay.
based on the structure of the receptor itself.
Oh, interesting.
This is called structure-based drug design, and it involves using, powerful computer models to visualize that receptor and its binding site.
So it's like having a blueprint of the lock
Yeah.
and crafting a key that fits perfectly.
Precisely. And once they have, like, a potential drug candidate, the testing begins. It's a very rigorous process with multiple stages involving both lab experiments and animal models to assess the drug's safety and effectiveness.
Safety is paramount, of course.
Yeah, of course.
We don't want to create more problems than we solve.
Absolutely. It's a long and meticulous process.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. We're talking about creating therapies that will eventually be used in humans.
Yeah, it all sounds incredibly complex, like searching for a needle in a haystack.
It can be,
Right.
but as our knowledge of these receptors and our technological capabilities continue to advance,
Yeah.
that haystack is shrinking.
Okay, good.
We're seeing some really exciting breakthroughs in drug discovery.
Give me a glimpse. What's on the horizon?
Well, one area that's particularly exciting is personalized medicine.
Personalized medicine. Okay.
This involves tailoring treatments to an individual's, unique genetic makeup and other factors.
So it's like creating a custom-made key for each person's specific lock.
Exactly. For example, certain genetic variations can influence how people respond to drugs.
Okay.
So by analyzing a patient's genes, doctors can actually predict whether a particular drug will be effective or if it's likely to cause side effects.
That's incredible. It's like having a personalized instruction manual for your body.
It is. It is. What other innovations are on the horizon? Let's see, another exciting area is the development of drugs that can actually target multiple receptors or pathways simultaneously.
Okay.
This is called polypharmacology.
Polypharmacology. Okay.
And it's particularly promising for complex diseases like cancer.
So it's like having a master key that can unlock multiple locks at once.
Exactly. This approach recognizes that many diseases involve disruptions in multiple pathways and therefore require a multi-pronged approach
Okay.
for effective treatment.
This is great. It sounds like we're on the cusp of a new era in medicine where treatments are becoming increasingly, targeted and personalized.
We are, and receptor pharmacology is really at the heart of this revolution.
Wow.
By understanding this intricate language of our cells, we're gaining the power to modulate those conversations and restore health in these incredibly precise ways.
This deep dive has been a true revelation.
It has.
It's just incredible to see how this knowledge is being used to develop therapies that are not only effective, but safer and more tailored to individual needs.
I agree. It's a testament to human ingenuity and the power of scientific exploration.
It really is.
And the most exciting part, we're just getting started.
We are.
As our understanding continues to grow,
Yeah.
the possibilities are endless.
I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Me too. Me too.
To our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about this fascinating world of receptor pharmacology.
Remember, this is just the beginning of your journey.
It is.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep learning.
Yeah.
You never know. You might be the one to unlock the next big breakthrough in medicine.
That's right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.